everybody, welcome back to our channel. I'm Sal, aka Slaw Dog, and in today's video I'm going to be doing the 1,000-mile review on this 2024 CFMoto 800XC ATV. The CFMoto CForce800 XC is, this model specifically is a Gen 2 ATV that CFMoto produced. They no longer produce this ATV, they stopped in 2024. In 2024, they actually released another CForce800, calling it the Touring, which is actually a Gen 3. So when I bought this in 2024, there were a lot of users who were kind of giving me a little bit of flack, that, hey, why didn't you go to the Gen 3? Well, there's a reason why I didn't go to the Gen 3, and that was I wanted to make sure that they worked out any bug. They actually had a bug, and that was a recall with the throttle. The Gen 3 also comes with a well upgraded full-size LCD screen, full color, which is, I think, epic. I mean, Mike, my buddy behind the camera, I mean, it looks like you could probably run a movie on that damn thing. It looks like the size of an iPad.
Absolutely. I
wish this had that screen, but anyway, beggars can't be choosers. A friend of ours that rides on our channel also has a blue, I think it's a 2021 800XC, and at the time I had my 600 Touring, and I rode with him a couple times, and I was really impressed with the power that his machine had. Even when we had passengers, his machine would literally yank away from my 600 like it was standing still. And my 600 had a full RNG clutch kit in it. The 600 was no slouch, don't get me wrong, but it was a 580cc branded as a 600. This is an actual true 800cc V-twin motor, while the 600 was a 580 single cylinder. So when I got behind the wheel, or behind the handlebars of my buddy Troy's, and he moved over to my 600 just to test ride it, I was absolutely shocked with a couple things. Number one, this machine's throttle, and a lot of people complain about CFMoto and their response and the throttle, which it could be the throttle, it could be the clutching, it could be both. The 600s, I don't know how the 500s are, I don't know how the 400s are, but my 600 was extremely laggy in the throttle. It was super soft and it felt very unresponsive, almost like you had to push it almost 3/4 of the way before it started to actually start to rev. The 800XC, as soon as you give that throttle a little bit of gas, it's gone. It engages, the clutch engages, and you are rolling. So the responsiveness between this machine and my prior 600 Touring is night and day. Absolutely night and day. And that's what led me to move to the 800XC. I didn't want the Gen 3 at the time because of, like I said, I didn't want a first release. So Mike has the second production line of the Gen 3 800 Touring, so he didn't have to worry about the dealer, you know, taking it back or doing the recall work to it, which is great. So I have ridden with Mike on his 800 Touring. I have actually helped him with his clutch kit and seen the responsiveness that the RNG clutch kit did to his machine, and I'm going to tell you right now, that machine is like, oh my god. So, but back to this. So that was one of the reasons why I leaned towards the 800XC, is I wanted something that was in the production line for a few years, and I think these have been out since like 2018, 2019. I should have done my homework. I'll throw a comment up if I'm wrong. But you know, the machine, I like the orange. I wanted the orange. My 600 Touring was red. There's just something about the orange. Plus, I'm a Broncos fan, so I know I catch a lot of slack for that. And you know, I ended up doing a naming, not a naming contest, but a naming session with people on Facebook. And I said, hey, help me name this four-wheeler. And I got a ton of names. My red one was called Big Red. We ended up going with Orange Crush. But I did it in Broncos blue. At one time I had 1-inch wheel spaces on this, which were also blue, so it kind of set it off a little bit with the color scheme, but they might go back on, I'm not sure. Am I happy with this ATV? I am, but I wish I would have had an opportunity to ride this machine. Maybe it was, you know, one of our riders a couple more times, because the ATV is extremely powerful for an 800. I'm happy with it, and you know, it's big. You know, This ATV sitting next to the 600, when you get on both back and forth, they are night and day in the way they feel, in the way they feel in size. This ATV, when you get on it, kind of feels like a tank compared to the 600. Waiting. It's a good pull. It might be a Mustang.
Oh.
Man, God, I miss mine. I'm sorry. You're standing there.
No, you're good.
So this ATV feels like it's a tank. You know, when I first got on it, my buddy Troy's, who rides on our channel, I was in shock at how high I was sitting compared to my 600. And when I first bought my 600, I was moving up from like a 350 Warrior. That thing felt like a tank. This thing feels like it's even bigger. It feels heavier. I could ride my 600 touring, and it ended up becoming so nimble that I could literally throw it around the trails. This, I can't. This thing has a mind of its own, and wherever you point it, it's freaking going. It is like a steamrolling tank. So, but it's got plenty of power. The one thing I noticed with my 600 touring, when I had my wife with me or a passenger, that 580cc single cylinder motor, it can drive all day and handle everything I threw at it, but it knew you had a passenger. You could feel the power loss with a passenger. You know, maybe it's a hill that you're tackling, or, you know, going over some rocks. You just feel it. When my wife got on this and when we went out for a first ride, this thing didn't even flinch as far as bogging down, lack of throttle. This thing handled it like a champ, and it performed as if it was just me on it. So I was very happy. So if you're in the ATV market, in the CFMoto line, looking for a passenger style touring model for, say, you and your wife or your girlfriend, you better not have a girlfriend if you have a wife, you know, maybe your kids, I would definitely push people towards the 800. You're not going to regret it. It's another $1,000. You're moving up 200 cc's, 220 cc's to a V-twin. You're just going to have that snappiness and torquiness that this thing has. I will warn you, one of my cons on this machine, and people hear me complain all the time, is comfort. The seats are comfortable. They're about as comfortable as you're going to get on an ATV. Some are maybe a little bit more comfortable. I know my 600 seat was a little bit lower in padding, although it felt more comfortable than the 800. The 800 feels like it's a wider seat, but it's fine. One of my biggest, strongest complaints about this ATV is the suspension. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, it's an ATV. What do you expect? You know, it's not a Volvo, or you know, it's not, you know, a Cadillac. Or if you're paying $10,000 for a machine that's set up to ride 2 people and possibly cargo, you want comfort. Okay, I have seen Yamahas, Grizzlies be comfortable, Kodiaks be comfortable. I've seen Can-Ams. My buddy Larry's XMR 1000 has Fox shocks on it. That thing rides, he said it's super soft. He adjusts it tight, but he said when it's adjusted soft, it rides like a Cadillac. My 600 touring, the stock shocks, although they were just click shocks, they weren't great, but they were more comfortable than this. And then I put Elkas on that ride, and I'm telling you what, night and day. I would love to get Elka shocks for this, but right now my budget it's not there. My 600 touring had the click shocks that just adjust the spring rate. This four-wheeler has not only the adjustable shocks, it has rebound and compression, and it also has the spring rate adjustment. Looking at the shocks, I mean, here's the piggyback reservoir. I have these shocks out about 1 inch stock. They're about down here, and I'm gonna tell you what, even my front shocks, I adjusted the spring rate or the spring compression, and they are not great at all. I have messed with these settings. I have spent so much time on Google. I've spent so much time on Facebook, on forums, and I've tried everybody's setups. And maybe I'm being picky, but I can tell you that I tried to go with what I thought was the best shock adjustment. And back in April, we rode Hatfield and McCoy. We rode 3 days, and I think we did like what, almost 300 miles?
300 miles.
Day one, we did about 80, and my wife's back was so sore riding on this. Day 2, we did an outlaw ride where we had a guide. That day was 100 miles, literally all day long. She was in so much pain on the way back. She stuck through it, but we had to get a pillow and put it behind the seat for her back. That's how bad it was. My buddy Mike, who was actually behind the camera, Mike, thank you for filming today. His wife, Kristen, rode on the back of his 800 Touring, and she had no problems. No problems. So that is the only problem I have with this 800 XC. Oh, I do have a second problem. We'll get to that, and that's heat. That's the only main concern I have. Is I would love to keep this four-wheeler. I would love to promote this four-wheeler, but the suspension is absolutely brutal. It is uncomfortable. The suspension was so bad that my wife, after riding Hatfield, looked at me and said, you have to get a side-by-side. I can't do this anymore, at least for not an extended time, and that's ride on the back of this four-wheeler. So CFMoto, I know you're not producing this line anymore, great, but please don't come out with these shocks again. They are complete turds. So my second complaint is heat. And a lot of people find that they have a heat problem. A lot of people will find that the Gen 2 800s and the 1000s, that would be the Overland, are extremely hot down in the motor. I mean, you're running a big V-twin motor right between your legs, okay? It's gotta go somewhere. And the exhaust pipe runs straight down the right leg, the right side of the ATV. I bought this in February of 2024. I rode it probably every weekend, and it was freezing cold, and I never felt anything. I had jeans on, even Under Armour underneath, because it was cold. So I welcomed that heat, if I even felt it. Later on, we were doing a ride, and it was probably 85, 90 degrees, creeping up on summer. I was wearing shorts, and I literally, on the way back from that ride, had to ride with my leg on the outside of the ATV. That's how hot this was burning my leg. It was burning my leg. If anybody's ever ridden with me, I never call a ride short. I never stop riding. When everybody's done, that's when I say, okay, we'll head back, and that's it. I literally looked at our guys that were riding that day and said, I can't take this anymore. I'm done. Headed back to the parking lot, loaded up, and went home. And then I'm in panic because I'm like, what do I do to cool this off? Well, there are a few ways to cool these machines, these ATVs off. Number one is the GSE sells a cool down pipe that you can cut the exhaust and remove your catalytic converter. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to cut the exhaust. So I had to figure out another way to cool this down. And I started looking at like heat tape, right? Everybody's seen like the tape people use to tape their intakes and their, you know, their cars, and they use it for other purposes. Well, that's pretty much aluminum foil, and we all know that's really not gonna cut down on any heat radiating out from the exhaust. It's gonna cut down on holding whatever it's wrapped with to stay cool. So what I ended up doing is I ended up going on Amazon, I ended up Googling and forums, and people were saying about doing a pipe wrap. Well, after I took the whole side of the ATV off, I'm like, there is no way I'm digging in there and wrapping this exhaust. I even bought the wrap. It's still at home, brand new in the box. I never used it. So I had to come up with some other idea. And what I came up with, and it cut down amazingly, is I found on Amazon, it's probably about maybe a 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's padded. It's almost like a fiberglass with a aluminum heat shield over it, and it's adhesive. I ended up buying a sheet of that. I took this cover off, and I ended up cutting pieces and, like, you know, trying to puzzle piece it in place, slapped it back in. I test rode it another day, and night and day. After riding for about 15 minutes, well, we rode all day, but I put it in low gear for this one spot, about a 1/4 mile, and I was on the throttle to try to create heat. Came to a stop, I put my hand on it. I was able to not only hold my hand on it, but I never had any heat hardly coming off of this at all, which is a huge win. So I'm gonna take the seats off and show you what I did. Oh. Don't mind the mess, it is dirty. No, not bad. And that's how easy the seats come off. But that's not holding. And that's how easy the cover comes off. And your air filter is in here. So let me come around this side. There you go. So this is the heat shield that comes on this, okay, that comes off with screws. But if you look here, it's actually a little thinner than I said, but it's holding great. I wiped this down with alcohol and I taped this to it, and I'll put a link in the description. And just this little bit taped on this plastic behind this heat shield, night and day difference. I'm telling you, night and day difference with heat. You could probably do it to the seats too. So if you're finding that the seats get too hot, you might have the 1000. You could buy this, just cut it up into different strips and just apply it, and it's gonna cut down on that heat. It's gonna radiate it back down. But this had some padding to it. I wanted something that had padding because I felt like it would absorb the heat a little bit better. Now, the 800XCs and the 1000 Overlands, they do get obnoxiously hot. And if you come in here and look, I mean, there is heat shield here from factory, but they even have, you know, I guess that's a cover on it as well. It still gets pretty damn hot, especially in the summertime. The Gen 3s, the way I understand it, RNG explained it to me, they get even hotter than the Gen 2s. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the motor, or if it's the way the routing is with the exhaust, but he said he feels it in the seat, he feels it on both sides of his legs. So this is something to think about. If you have a side-by-side and the cab gets hot, you could actually buy sheets of this and tape it inside there. I've had great success with it. So that was my only two complaints with this ATV, the suspension and the heat. But I think I solved a lot of the heat problems. We rode this last summer. After I did this, my wife rode with me. We didn't have any issues. She never complained once about heat. So that's a win. So, all right, I'm gonna put this back together. All right, so we covered my two biggest complaints for this ATV are the suspension, I know I said it, and the heat. Some of the additions that I added. I did add these LED light pods. I do like them for the fact that when we're riding at night, the rarity that we do, that you can turn them so you can light up the side of the trail. You do lose a little bit of light with this. You know, I think they'd be better served if they were out here. But with the tree limbs that we have a tendency to slam time to time, I was worried that they would get knocked off. So I figured they'd be safer back here, away from the front end. I mean, I've hit stuff already with this, like right here, you know. But so we added those. I added this. So a lot of people, when I first added this, I didn't want a big massive cargo box on the front of my four-wheeler because I already got one in the back. So plus the big, I feel the big ones obstruct view. So I ended up buying this on Amazon, and anybody that has a Can-Am will recognize that this is actually made for a Can-Am. It's a mini Can-Am cargo box. Can-Am has a system kind of like the CFMotos with the way that, you know, you can lock some things down in these receivers here. Mike and I have these, we just did a review on these Ben Laurie tie downs. These are a game changer. You see the ones, they stick up. These do not. I'll put a link in the description if you guys are interested in them. They're actually really cool. But Can-Am has a locking system in their front end and in the rear end of their ATVs. I don't know if their side-by-sides do that or not. And on the bottom of this, it has this mechanism, plastic that sticks down, that I think it had like a turn knob that you can just drop it in the hole, lock it, and you're done, which is pretty sweet. But what I did is I cut that off because I wanted this to sit flush, and I wanted something to be able to put like all my tow straps, ratchets, stuff like that, get it out of my box, because I wanted to have a little bit more room in my cargo box. That's the only reason why I got this. But this actually serves two purposes for my needs, and that's when I ride, if I want to put a camera up front, instead of running the wire all the way over here and powering it off the ATV to keep the GoPro charged, I can actually, let's just say I want to, and you can see in here, I have all my straps, I got ratchets, I got, you know, all kinds of stuff in here, a tow strap. But one of the things that I like is if I decide that I want to attach a GoPro to like right here, right? Or maybe even right here, okay? And I wanna film either me or passenger or the guys in front of me. I can actually put my battery pack, this is a 20,000 mAh, this will last literally powering the GoPro all day long, probably 6-7 hours. So I like using these. I can put this in here. and I can run my cord right to my GoPro and power my GoPro from up here. I don't have any obstructions with cords back here. So that was another reason why I wanted this type of box up front. So that's the Can-Am on a CFMoto cargo box. All right, and it just shuts. Now, one thing I did do also to this, and let me show you how I mounted this. This comes off, this lifts off. I just ran 2 bolts through it, some washers. Yeah, you got to drill this rack, but I mean, I drill a lot of the products on the CFMoto stuff and mount stuff. Before I do it, I check the cost of these. I think this was like $35 on CFMoto to replace, but why would I? I'm not going to take this off. You can still access your panel. I think it's a great, you know, a great way to add some storage space. But one thing that I did do is this comes with a big handle here that you can grab and lift up. I cut that out because I wanted to be able put this in, get this strap. This strap has, I mean, I don't think it has to be laying down, but when the handle was on up here, it was lifting this up. I don't know if you can see that. Yep. It was lifting this up, and I was worried that it would end up popping off. So I cut the handle, I moved it a little bit further front, and I can still access this panel. And I rode Hatfield McCoy 300 miles, it didn't go anywhere. So it held up great. Another addition, I used to run a RAM mount for my phone. One of our guys, Larry, who drives the Outlander 1000, the XMR, he has a mount like this, and I really liked it because the RAM mounts, unfortunately, they're 4 points, and what was happening is it was hitting my side buttons on my iPhone, and it was completely interrupting my ride. It would adjust the volume up and down. It would activate Siri to call 911. I mean, it was a pain in the butt. So the one thing I liked about this is it's so easy. Just slide in, done. It's not going anywhere. This is a little loose, but it does have a, you want to come over here, Mike? It does have a shock system. So you can see how this has like a, so it does help with vibration. It may look like, I apologize, it may look like it's loose. It's not. It's the shock system to cut down on the shock. But I can easily pull this out if we're riding. I can access my phone. I don't have to worry about spreading the RAM mount. The RAM mounts are not a bad thing. They're a good product. It's just for this type of situation, I did not want it anymore. So that I stopped using. If anybody wants a link to this, I'll just drop us a comment. I'll throw the link in there. I do have a mirror on this. The mirror comes in handy. I don't like running 2 mirrors. I stopped running 2 mirrors because I ended up shearing them off. Dummy me. So I just run one, and it helps me because I end up leading a lot of our group rides when we ride. So I like being able to see and make sure everybody's behind me. If we lose somebody, I'm able to see it. I usually try to tell the guys turn their headlights on because it's easier for me to see. But I do have the mirror. This cargo box. Everybody's asked me, where did I get the cargo box for the 800XC? Because one of the stupidest things CFMoto ever did was they killed the cargo box for the 800, specifically for the 800XC. That was such a dumb move because these 4-wheelers are still out there. These 4-wheelers are still in use. I see them on Facebook Marketplace. I see them for sale. I see them used at dealers. They're a great ATV. But killing the cargo box was a stupid mistake CFMoto made. This cargo box was on my 600. So this is the CForce800 600 cargo box that I actually mounted to this. So it's not factory. And what I did, the easiest way, I'm gonna give you guys a tip to mount one of these because it doesn't have the holes. You know, I used the stock bolts for the rack, okay? And then I just put big washers with, you know, a lock washer in there, and I drilled 3 holes. A hole here, a hole down in there, and a hole in the back. And I used the stock locations that hold the plastic rack to the metal rack. Now people are like, how did you get it lined up perfectly? So this is my trick. Take the box off. You're gonna have to buy longer bolts. So take those bolts to your hardware store, thread a nut on them, and then test and make sure you get the right bolt. but get a bolt that is probably another inch longer than the stock bolt. Take the box off. Put a bolt in 3 spots or wherever you want on this rack and get a little bit of paint, whether it be latex paint, acrylic paint. Just thread them in just so the threads start. Don't run them down because you want height. Put a little bit of paint on the top of the bolts. Have a friend. I did this by myself, but make sure it's empty because it's going to be heavy if you have it loaded with crap. Have a friend and yourself line it up and then gently set it down on top of those painted bolts and gently lift it off. And when you turn that box over, you're going to have the exact drill points that you're going to need. So hopefully that's a good tip for whoever wants to mount a cargo box to their any ATV that it's not designed for. The CFMoto boxes have the locking mechanisms that lock down into the rack. Unfortunately, because this is not the stock box for this rack design, I was unable to utilize the CFMoto self lockers that go inside and lock down. So I had to mount it manually. This cargo box, even though the holes are in the bottom to receive the CFMoto lockers, has never gotten wet. I've never had any moisture in this box unless I put something wet in the box. So this box has stayed sealed pretty well and has served me well. And I was able to recycle it off my other 4-wheeler. So that was a win. As you'll notice here, I do have Rotopax mounts. There's another one on the other side. It's actually, I took it off, but the bolts are still there. I do carry from time to time. I do carry gas with us when we ride. At Hatfield, I had 2 on, 1 on each side. I've had issues with them backing out. Matter of fact, Mike, you were with us. I lost one. Yep. I had a lockable one, and somehow it freaking unscrewed, and my Rotopax fell out. Luckily, one of our guys stopped and picked it up. But it's a great way. I've also mounted Rotopax to the front of my 600. I have a video out there on how I did that if you want to run them laying flat. I ran 2 at one time. Mike on his 800 Touring has 2 of the smaller, squarer boxes mounted on each side of his, and he hasn't had a single issue, so I don't know what your secret is, but I definitely need to know. But that's how I put this box on this ATV. So this is not the stock box. Okay. I did complain about suspension. All right, we're not going to go there, but I did put a 2-inch lift on this. I think it's Perflex. So I did put a 2-inch lift on this because my goal with that was I knew I would be reducing spring compression by trying to loosen these shocks up. So I took about 1 inch off of the spring for the compression, so I knew that that would settle down. So put in the 2-inch, and I ride a passenger. My wife goes with me sometimes, so I wanted that ground clearance. So I did the 2-inch lift to compensate me stretching out the shock. I did also put an Ricochet off-road full aluminum skid plate on this ATV. There's a video out there of us installing this last year. It installed perfectly. We ended up doing, what is it called, like HDE, the plastic? Yeah. We ended up installing an HDE skid plate on another 800XC. And that was an absolute pain in the butt. Nothing lined up properly. You had to have like 10 fingers in order to get it up inside the frame to try to, it was a nightmare. The instructions were horrible. Ricochet Off-Road's instructions were money. They were to the T, easy to understand. And we got this skid plate, I think Tom and I did it at John's shop, and we got it done like that. So I have hit that skid plate numerous times and I have never had an issue. Other than that, to close this out, I know I kind of bashed on it a little bit with the suspension and the heat. I think I kind of helped out with the heat. Doing what I did here, I think it was $27. Come here, baby. Hi, what are you doing? You want to be on YouTube? Do you want to be on YouTube, Piggy? Do you want to be on YouTube? I do. Grumble, grumble. You want to go for a ride? You want to go for a ride with me? Nope, that's not. All right, so for $27, I think I pretty much cured a lot of the heat issue on this ATV. So that's an ultimate win right there. So that takes me back to my one and only real complaint, and that's the ride with the suspension. Me, as the operator, I don't find it to be that bad. But when I had my wife on it for 300 miles across 3 days, she said, Sal, this is unbearable, especially when I see Mike and his wife riding the 800 Touring, and they're like, wow, 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 wow. So I'm like, I gotta see if his shocks will fit this. So if they do, because Elkas are my dream shock, I do love the Elka shocks. John Hester, that's a shout out to you. Hester Motorsports, if you guys looking for any suspension upgrades, oh my God. Those shocks make stock shocks look like pogo sticks. But I don't know if I'm in the market right now to do an $1,800 purchase for a stage 1 shock. I would love to. I'm kind of focusing a lot of my time right now and upgrades on my side-by-side, my ZForce 950. I don't want to necessarily go spending $1,800 to $2,000 to upgrade this machine, although I'd love to. But right now, like I said, I'm focusing a lot of my stuff, my mods, I'm doing to my side-by. But I'm hoping, you know, to get back to this at some point. I will be throwing a little bit larger tires on this. I mean, at 1,000 miles, these tires held up pretty decent. They still got a decent amount of tread on them. We did a lot of road riding at Hatfield and McCoy, you know, these tires actually grip pretty good, the stock tires that come on this. At one point, I did like the way these tires looked. I think these were on the older gen Z-Forces, but the problem I have with them, because they have such a low sidewall, I think these tires actually run stiff. So I am going to, my side-by-side, I'm going up to 30s, and those tires are 27s, these are 26s. And I think the game plan is we're going to put the side-by-side, because they're brand new tires, on this, and I'm hoping that that's going to give me a little bit of a cushionier ride compared to these lower profile rear tires. So tires might add to this issue. I know if I were to go up to a mud tire, it's probably going to make it a little bit more comfortable, but for right now, this is the setup that it is. You can pick these ATVs up at a relatively decent price on Facebook Marketplace. You can get them at dealers used. It's a good ATV. I have not had any issues with this. This ATV has 1,117 miles on it, and they've been great miles. They've been fun miles. The only thing I've done to this as far as maintenance was the break-in service. I talked to the dealer. I said, listen, I have not had the valves adjusted. The dealer looked at me and said, if you're not having any issues with it, don't worry about it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I never did the valve adjustments to my 600 when I had it. All I did was the oils. I did the motor oil, I did the diff fluid. This thing, I waited till 500 miles, because there's a lot of talk out there that 200-mile break-in maintenance is probably a little bit overkill. I know of individuals that are doing it at 500, so I wanted to hold this at 500, and I did it at 500. There were no issues. The normal little bit of metal dust on the magnets for the diffs, and the engine had hardly anything on it. And at 500 miles, and I've ride this thing pretty hard, at 500 miles, the oil in the motor looked still awesome. I mean, it was nice and clean. It wasn't black, it wasn't brown. It still looked really good. So I am now at 1,100 miles, so I think I am going to change the motor oil. I'm also going to do the transmission as well. The transmission has not been done in this. So I'm going to take the gear oil out of the transmission, and I'm going to replace it. I'm going to leave the diffs alone. Maybe at 1,500 miles, I'll do the diffs. But other than that, this ATV is a great ATV. If I had my choice, I know I didn't do it then, but right now, if I had my choice, seeing how the Gen 3s perform, I would definitely get a Gen 3. I would definitely get a Gen 3 800 Touring or a Gen 3 1000 Touring. The complete redesign of the Gen 3 800s, well, the CForces from the 800s to the 1000s, is a step up night and day compared to this. And they redid the clutching. That ATV has the Omni drive. This has the CVT. Nothing wrong with the CVT, but the Omni drive is a completely different clutch. Night and day, it's a monster. Especially if you do an RNG clutch kit in it. Wow, and replace the belt, right, Mike?
Absolutely. Air filter too.
I am running a full RNG clutch kit in this with the R1 Helix. And I'll tell you, when we rode Hatfield McCoy, I get hit a lot. You are running high gear, you should be running low gear. Yes, I understand that. If I come to a spot where we're gonna be doing some heavy hills or heavy switchbacks or some crawling, I will drop into low gear. If we're just running a trail and it's a short climb or a short hill, I'll run high. This machine pulled my wife and I all over Hatfield McCoy for 3 days, 300 miles, and I ran almost the whole time in high gear. There were times I switched to low, but this has a full clutch kit in it. I know how to ride this ATV and how to utilize that clutch kit. I know what it can do and what it can't do. And the belt. Before we left for Hatfield, I got a brand new belt from Steve at RNG Performance. It's a Mitsubishi belt, and that Mitsubishi belt has 300 miles on it. So I don't even have to pull this cover and look at it. I know that it is still great. I'm not worried about it. So with that being said, I like it. I wish it was a better ride as far as suspension, but beggars can't be choosers. That is a very small thing to worry about. This thing fires right up in every temperature, whether it's 20 degrees, 90 degrees. It's been an awesome ATV for what I use it for. So I'm happy with it. So we're gonna close this out. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you find it useful, please feel free to share it out. Please feel free to give us a like, hit that like button, and we appreciate if you'd subscribe. You don't have to hit the notification bell unless you want to. It doesn't cost anything, but we appreciate the support. We're trying to drive the channel. We're gonna start doing more reviews. We're gonna be reviewing guy behind the camera, my buddy Mike, who's helping me today film this. He has an 800 Touring, the first one that joined our channel. Tom actually just bought a 2024 800 Touring in camo. So we have two now that ride in our group, but we're gonna be doing a 300-mile review on Mike's 800 Touring coming down the road in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. Thanks guys, have a wonderful day.